What up, everybody? It's your boy Rich Michaels, and in this episode, it's part two of Should Pro Wrestling Be Unionized? Well, let's jump into it. Let's get it. What up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy New Year 2022. Wrestling world, wrestling on the rise, fam. It's great to be back and see y'all. It's great to be back and see me. I hope you can see me. I can't see myself. Yeah. But anyways, this episode is the first episode of 2022. And going forward, there's going to be a lot of changes going to happen to WOTR, the remix. Let's start off by saying we're going back to our 2017 goal where our main objective was to get recognition on the Ontario wrestling scene, and we're going to do that again starting this year. So changes are going to happen to the show, meaning I am going to be traveling to different shows every month to give you guys news, interviews, dates for upcoming events, special promos, merch commercials, and more stuff from Ontario wrestling promotions and Ontario wrestlers. Also, changes are coming to our social media outlets, meaning we will have different posts on all different platforms. But mostly they will have, they will have similar posts, just the main ones about episodes. But going forward, each platform, Twitter, Facebook, and so will have different posts about different topics or same topics, just different stuff on all platforms. But everything will still be available to you on our YouTube channel. Also, this year, coming back to Wrestling on the Rise is the return of What Moves You. I know you guys remember that. That is one move that is done between four wrestlers, and you tell me who does it best. Right? Isn't that exciting news? I'm excited for that. Also, I just want to say with the rebirth of Wrestling on the Rise and the remix in 2021, I want to give a special thank you to everybody that made it possible and encouraged me and gave me motivation to keep going forward. And I want to thank my wife, first and foremost, and my family, my kids. Second, my homies, Adam Mitchell, Lionel Thompson, Barry Wrestling as a whole. I'm talking Sean Gibson, the Diamond Gym, Miss Barry Wrestling. I'm talking Eric. I'm talking everybody from the backstage crew, everybody that helped out. Everybody in Barry Wrestling, thank you so much for welcoming me back into the wrestling scene, the wrestling community with open arms. Also, I want to thank Curtis Rich, Critters Den Photography, my homies Mike and Tyler from CountOut7.com. You guys are the men. Well, you guys are the men. Adele's Creations, who gave me this wicked drip. Will call me Richie Drip Drip with this Wrestling on the Rise remix t-shirt. She also made us these Wrestling on the Rise remix face masks. Pretty sick. Holla at Adele's Creations for your creativity ideas. Also, Vibes on the Rise, who was giving me motivation through everything that I've needed. Follow Vibes on the Rise on Instagram and Twitter. Also, Phoenix Winterborn. I don't know if that's your real name, Phoenix, but thank you, homie. I see you. Reverso, who has said some awesome words to me when I was down deep and basically got me back up while I was in tears. Honestly, Reverso, thank you so much for what you said to me. It has motivated me to become a wrestler for 2022. Also, I want to say thank you to Holden Albright, Gabriel Frerza, Von Vertigo, Wade Allen, Travis Moore, and Carter Mason. You guys are awesome. And everybody that I just mentioned, thank you so much. All right. So now that's enough of that about the introduction to the episode. This episode we'll be talking, this episode is actually part two of the last episode of Should Pro Wrestling Be Unionized? Okay, and I'm going to be honest with you. I found out some real interesting things here that are kind of scary. I just got to choose my words wisely for this episode, and hopefully it does not get me blackballed in this industry because I am starting my pro wrestling training this year. So I'm not attempting to get it unionized. I'm just giving out information. But this episode will be talking exclusively about Canada, actually not just Canada, Ontario. And if it was unionized, if it had regulations and whatnot. I'm just telling you, this information you're gonna hear. I don't know if you actually want to hear it or want to know it, but after this episode, just delete the information from your brain and just act like you don't know. Trust me, it's scary. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. All right, so this is a continuation from last episode. Like I said earlier in the beginning, this is part 2 of Should Pro Wrestling Be Unionized? And this one is focused on Ontario, not just Canada, but on Ontario. So if you remember things of the previous episode, that's great. It does, some of it applies to Canadian rules or Ontario rules of pro wrestling, but most of it doesn't. So let me just start off by saying in 2004, pro wrestling in Ontario was deregulated. But beforehand, Ontario was the only province to have it regulated. I think the 80s, the last province got deregulated, and Ontario just got deregulated in 2004. And this action came from actual promoters who are requesting the deregulation of the sport. I know, interesting, right? Promoters were asking it to be deregulated. And in the previous episode, I said it should be regulated. So why did promoters want it to be deregulated? Well, requirements for regulation were that every promotion had a liability of insurance, okay? And that was at least 200 or 2 million or more of insurance. Also, $1,000 security deposit that is paid to the Ontario Athletic Commission. Boo. Plus licensing, I can never say this word, like licensing fees that can range between $75 to $300 depending on the population of the venue and where you're holding the event. Also, the regulations, when there was regulated, wrestlers had to pay a $75 annual license fee just to be licensed wrestlers here in Ontario. Now, with them deregulating, all that does not need to happen. Okay, so just like the US, the wrestling community here in Ontario did not want the regulations to happen. Okay, as I said earlier, most of the requests came from promoters. Why? Because most promotions and promoters lack the funds of insurance or other things that the regulations required. So it was like small independent companies that were mostly running shows. We don't have a WWE up here or anything big like that. That's a multi-million-dollar company that could just have money or insurance like that, right? So most companies will come together to come up with funds or join their insurance together to show proof that they have insurance to the OAC. But yeah, I was wrong. So I was totally wrong about the regulations and stuff like that. Here's the thing. The Ontario Athletic Commission is just run by people who are just in charge of athletics. Now, if we had a pro wrestling committee that was in charge of regulations, I'm pretty sure the regulations would be different that are coming from the pro wrestling committee. And I'm pretty sure it would be actually much more better for the industry, but that's my personal opinion. I said last episode they need to regulate it. Hey, it was regulated, now it's not regulated, they don't need it. So yeah, I don't really know much. But the more I learn about this is the more that it scares me, especially when you come across the actual reason of who actually got it deregulated. So the actual reason it got deregulated is because the Ministry of Government Affairs made the call to deregulate pro wrestling in Ontario because they wanted the AOC to focus on legitimate fighting sports, like WTF, legitimate fighting sports. So until this point, in 2004, MMA was illegal, and it was legal in 2011. So from 2004 to 2011, they only wanted to focus on boxing and kickboxing. Yeah, I don't know. Casino Rama was the only spot that I know that had boxing matches. I haven't heard any spot else. So it was kind of weird for them just to deregulate pro wrestling because they just felt like they need to focus on boxing and kickboxing. But here's the real thing though. Pro wrestling didn't actually have a health and safety committee or anything like that. So when they looked at pro wrestling as a whole, as a sport, not just because it's predetermined and it's choreographed. They just looked at it as if like, how are we supposed to keep them safe if it's choreographed and stuff like that, which is understandable. But then just because it's choreographed, you don't think that the stuff they're getting hit with could actually get them hurt. So we're just not going to have a health and safety committee. That's what I didn't understand, what that didn't make sense to me. But the AOC made the decision, right? So yeah, deregulation happened in 2004, primarily because the government didn't see the purpose of it. But what the promoters didn't want was that the hefty fines and fees they have to pay. So let me just put it like this. Okay, as of today, to run a boxing or kickboxing event with 12 fighters and 6 matches in any city, big or small, doesn't matter, it costs a minimum of $44,530. And that's without taxes and not including contracts that to pay for fighters. That's just the minimum of what I came up with from the figures that I got from the from the OAC. Okay, $44,530. Now that's what you have to pay just to run the show, and that's like, in some of these promotions here in Ontario can't even make half of that, not even close to the show. Like, you need to be charging up the ass for that, like $300 tickets. Most of these shows here are like $20 tickets, $30 tickets, and stuff like that. And plus, you got to pay your wrestlers. And if you have equipment, you have equipment. But if you don't, you're renting it or borrowing it and stuff like that. So it's like money up the yin yang. So now I understand. I totally get why promotions did not want to have regulations or want to deregulate pro wrestling. Now, though, here's the thing, though. Is this actually better for the sport in a whole? Yes, but then no. Because who is liable for these injuries besides the actual wrestler? That's it. That's my only issue. Deregulating pro wrestling here in Ontario opened up to a lot of opportunities for companies to be born and to thrive. So let me say this now, okay? Before the pandemic, there were 28 promotions here in Ontario running exclusively and had live events every month. 28 companies. Now, post-pandemic, no, there's been a couple. But like before then, all 28 of those promotions were birthed after 2004. So the deregulating pro wrestling in Ontario birthed a lot of promotions here and gave us a lot of wrestling here. So we really can't complain. I should not complain. I am just actually giving up this idea of deregulating and unionized. Well, not unionized. I'm giving up the idea of deregulating this until we have an actual pro wrestling committee that looks after the pro wrestlers and then the companies. I just need something, or we, as a diehard fan of wrestling and wrestlers, want the wrestlers to be more safe. Now we're at an age where mental health is a tally and a toll on our body, and then we can experience it from anywhere, just from ordering food at a fast food place to watching wrestling or being a wrestler or just training to become a wrestler. Mental health will just creep up on you. Not just to mention your physical health. Anything could go wrong, and then you're stuck with it for life, or if you don't get it fixed out or checked out right away. So these are my only issues with pro wrestling, and for it to be safe for everybody. So now, as a fan, I want to see safety first for the wrestlers so that I could see them wrestle again, and then safety for us, right? Do not regulate pro wrestling until it has an actual legitimate pro wrestling committee. Boom, fixed it. That's my final answer. That's what I'm saying. We need a pro wrestling committee that's designated for pro wrestling, and that's it. Because the AOC just cares about boxing and kickboxing. So that's what I got for unionizing pro wrestling here in Ontario. It's a cancel, and it's a hell to the no. But wrestling here in Ontario as a whole has rose up to the top, and since the pandemic it's kind of declined, but it will rise back up, and I will be there to help it rise back up. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the previous episode, and my next episode is the last part to this topic, and it's no more about unionization, because we are not talking about unionizing pro wrestling, because it can't happen. It really just can't happen. Take all the information I said in last episode, all the information you heard in this episode, put that together and ask yourself if it makes sense if you were actually a wrestler or a promoter. And it really doesn't. You just want to be safe, and so do I. I just want the wrestlers to be safe. That's pretty much it. But our next episode, we were going to be talking about should seating for fans be pushed back 20 feet and how far is seating for wrestling companies. That's what we're going to talk about. More safety issues. More safety issues for the wrestlers and for the fans. Yeah, safety first. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of you. Happy New Year. And 2022 is going to be big changes for Wrestling on the Rise. So make sure you stay tuned and tell me how you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Is this your first meeting to our channel or first visit to our channel? And follow us on all our social media platforms. But until next episode, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you again.